Hello and welcome to the Bonus XP podcast. I'm your host, Luke Morgan, and I'm joined, as always, by the God of War, Conan Clark,
That's
and,
me.
and Andrew Griner of the Forbidden West.
Great. Associate me with that property. Thanks so much.
Or the Elden Lord. You take your pick. But
Much better.
welcome back. So if you're new to the show, what we usually do here very regularly is sit down every fortnight or month and talk about what games we've been playing and each bring forward a news item or topic from the gaming world that we want to discuss. However, it's a new year, a new dawn, and a new us. So what we're going to do is reflect on the year that was 2022 with our personal picks for Game of the Year. Probably go through our top 3 games of the year and what we thought was the best game of the year. And we might just get a little preview of what games we're looking forward to coming up in 2023 as well to round out the show. But I guess we'll just start with our. How should we do this? I'm not sure.
Your show,
Start with
baby.
our. We want to finish with our game of the year to be the final thing. So, we might start with honorable mentions. Now, I haven't got an actual list or anything like that, but I'll go to Griner because Griner has played more games than any of us. He does his duty. So, Griner, what games this year would you consider not your favorite games of the year or in your top 3, but you just want to give a shout out to that people should play?
Yeah, sure. All right. Nobody saves the world. This game was slept on. It came out at the start of the year. It's available on Game Pass, and it just has a really fun mechanic of you have a whole bunch of characters you can choose from. They all have abilities, but you can swap abilities, so you can take abilities from one character and give them to another one. And so you're kind of working your way through these dungeons that have very specific rules, so they might be immune to certain types of damage, and you've got to build a character out of all the cast of characters you own that can take on this dungeon. And it's really fun. I had a really, really good time with Nobody Saves the World. I feel like it was the most slept on game this year because I don't feel like hardly anybody talked about it. And I really recommend it. It's got a cutesy art style, which might turn some people off, but yeah, it's just a really fun kind of top-down RPG, twin-stick shooter, that kind of style. Yeah, but just a really interesting mixing and matching of abilities. It felt a lot like playing, I don't know, a draft in a card game or something like that, where you're trying to get your combo together so that you're unstoppable for this certain dungeon. A lot of fun. Cult of the Lamb. I talked about it a lot, but yeah, it was a really fun game for a moment there. It didn't stick with me. I finished it, but I didn't, go back to it or anything like that. But combining those Animal Crossing elements with a roguelike game is genius. I think it does both of those things well, but it doesn't do either of them exceptionally. And I think that's probably why it's not in my top 3, I guess. But I had a lot of fun with that game. It's it's kind of a jack of all trades, and I think if they do a Cult of the Lamb 2 and they get both of those elements, raise them up another level, it'll be top notch.
Aussie developer as well.
Aussie developed, which big ups for that. And finally, Hard Space Shipbreakers. This game's been out for ages, but finally went full release this year, so it was in early access for a long time. You disassemble giant ships using a bunch of lasers and pulleys and explosives, and it was a really chill game. I would just put on a stream on the other screen and just work away at chipping away at this giant spaceship, getting all the little panels and the lights off, putting them in the right bucket so I could earn the most amount of money. It was just really, really chill and fun. I had a really good time with that game.
True.
Hold on.
Conan, do you have any games this year that you feel like aren't in your recommended? Maybe a game that nobody else played.
I can tell you some that I wish I played more than every other. I wish I played every game.
Yes.
There are some though that I wish I had. I truly wish I had played because they're pretty great. Pediment, the medieval detective game.
Yeah,
like that sounds really cool, and I put it on my never-ending list. A Plague Tale we've spoken about at length, but I still really want to play that. I really need to play that. What was that other one? I've written it down somewhere. Let me check.
Scorn.
gone.
Scorn. Do you still want to
Oh,
play
Scorn.
Scorn?
Sorry, yeah, I do. I'm a little bit deterred by the fact that it's not a more. It's purely puzzle game. But I still really want to play it because something. I know it's awoken something in me. I don't know what. And Norco is the other one. Norco.
Yeah, that's another one I keep hearing good things about.
I really want to play Norco. That
What
looks
is
really cool.
Norco? Is that not a milk or something? That's
Every
all
time I
know.
see it, I'm like, they make milk.
It's a
No,
place. It's a place in the US.
yeah, it's like an industrial area of Louisiana, and
So
so
what's
it's
the
kind of like
game? I hadn't heard of this before.
it is a point and click game,
Mm.
and it's like set in this. It's kind of like the way Wikipedia describes it is it's like magical realism slash sci-fi, which just is all I'm about. And it's kind of like I think you play someone looking for your brother or something, and so you go on a journey through this place that's it's like a petrol uh, oil production town, and so it's kind of like steampunky and falling apart. And you go through there, and it's kind of like like an environmental message, but it's just this really interesting world. So that looks really cool.
I So for my game that I'll give a honorable mention to, that doesn't quite crack my top three, would be The Quarry. So we talked about this game a
Oh,
bit as in something we had planned to originally play together, but we couldn't get it organized. And they have a weird multiplayer mode where you can't actually play with more than two people online, which is a bit silly for a game that hosts many characters. You'd think it's the perfect like stream game to have with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So I played this game last week, all the way through with my wife. So we played Until Dawn together years ago. We've played most of the Dark Pictures games when they've come out. It's sort of a tradition with us. And we finally sat down and played The Quarry through last week. It took us maybe 2 or 3 nights that we played through it together, a couple hours each night. Had a actually had like a really good time with it. It doesn't reach the heights of Until Dawn. I still think they, nailed it on their
Picked
first
early.
attempt.
Yeah.
And then, they had all the Dark Pictures, which were cheaper, $30, $40 experiences that were shorter. And this was their first one that was meant to come back to that Until Dawn level. I would say I enjoyed it more than the Dark Pictures games so far that I'd played. But yeah, like has a good cast. They try and go with they got Lance Henriksen. They've got I can't. I'm horrible with names tonight. The guy from Scream. That's David Arquette.
Oh, David Arquette. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
they've got David Arquette there. They've got Brenda Song from like Disney fame. They've got a few other actors that Ethan Suplee, or is it Suplee, or
Yes, play. He's cool. He's good.
like it's got an interesting cast, for what it is, and it's
Ted Raimi.
group of
That's right.
camp. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ted Raimi.
That's so
He's
good.
great. He's actually great at this.
That's good casting.
But it has apparently 136 variations of its ending,
Goodness
and I
me.
can see very easily how like when I finished it, I was very much like, okay, so I wonder if that hadn't happened to this character, what would have happened here? And very much like, oh, this really could have branched out. Usually it's like, I could see option A, B, or C then for the ending. But this one was very much like, oh, that one thing I did earlier really like cost me like hours later, which is frustrating. One thing I'll say, and I guess it is what it is for horror games. I was very much trying for like a perfect playthrough with everyone surviving. It did not happen at all. I think we ended up with 4 or 5 deaths, and 2 of them, I'll just say, were utter bullshit. Where like I'm like it's so like I was actually frustrated, and usually I would just bite the bullet, and with 1 or 2, I like straight away I like try to quit to the main menu, and I was like, no, that's bullshit. That's stupid. I'll go back, but it auto saves straight away. So as soon as you go back in the game, it plays the
Yeah,
cutscene
they
again of that
can't.
character dying.
You
I was like,
can't stop.
oh man,
Which is
like
good. That's good. That's
it's
good.
like it's fine, and I live with the decision. But like one of them really hit a sore point for me where I was like, come on, it's near the end of the game, and this one choice where it's like both things seem like a reasonable thing, with like no signs of one thing being dangerous. Like you'd think, oh, this is the right one. This is like the And no, it's not even you failed a gameplay option. It's just like, no, you chose that. Boom, you're dead straight away. Like no fanfare about it. And I was just like, oh, that's really sucks. But
That's pretty funny.
fun and stuff like that makes me want to replay it. Where I'm like, okay, now I'll could go through again and choose a few different things and see how I go with it. But I do recommend that game if you liked Until Dawn or want a fun experience. It's a really fun game to play with your partner. Like it's not gameplay intensive or anything like that. My wife would tell you differently. I was like, just pull the trigger. And she's like, where? Which one? Now the head's gone. But it is fun to play. It doesn't cause too many arguments, so I do recommend that game. So what we'll do is we'll get into our top three and we'll finalize. Obviously, there will probably be some debates on what is game of the year, but we will each have our game of the year. I will probably be outvoted. I'm just trying to foresee the future.
Are we trying to do a game of the year for the podcast? Is that the goal, or?
I mean,
I'm happy not to because it's kind of dumb. It's going to be 2-1.
Picks. We'll have our individual picks, but I know what they'll be. So we'll see how we go. But Griner, we'll start with you. What would be your third best game of 2022?
My third best game of 2022 is God of War Ragnarok.
Oh, dude, what? Not even top 2?
No, not even close to top 2, unfortunately. God of War 2018, one of my favourite games of all time, would be in the top 10, I think, for sure. Yeah, and I basically got a PS5 for God of War Ragnarok. I really enjoyed the game. Like, it is a very good game. It is very much more of the same, which I'm fine with. I really loved the gameplay of 2018. I really enjoyed going around and finding all the Valkyries and defeating them all, doing all the hard challenges with the combat. I think that's a game that took, its third-person action formula, learned from games like Dark Souls and got the lessons right and came up with this combat system that I think I really, really enjoyed, really, really clicked with me. I had fun switching between the weapons and the different combos you can pull off. Like, it all just felt really good, and I really enjoyed doing those harder combat challenges. God of War Ragnarok, the combat and everything is more of the same. I could not tell you what is different about the combat in God of War Ragnarok.
Wow.
I really got into the systems and built out my character as much as I could in the first one so I could defeat all the Valkyries. I platinumed God of War Ragnarok. I did every challenge, defeated all the hardest enemies. I couldn't tell you how anything I did was different to what I did in the first game. The attacks and everything seem much the same. You use basically the same weapons. But that's fine. I'm okay with, all right, because I really, really enjoyed that. My problems with God of War Ragnarok are that the story is a lot bigger in scope than the first game. The first game tells, I said this in our last podcast about everything everywhere all at once, and it being this really big, there's this big world-ending threat happening, but it's really a small story. And this God of War 2018 does that really well. Tells that small story about Atreus and Kratos and taking his mother's ashes to the highest point in the realms. Like, it's just such a that story really touched me. I thought it was really, really good. And then, behind that, you've got Boulder and the bigger things that are going on in that world. But that's not what that game is about. Or that's not what the story of that game is about, really. Like, he's almost a secondary concern by the end of that game. Ragnarok's story is huge compared to that story. Like, it's massive. It spans multiple families. And it's no secret we get introduced to Thor and Odin, and I think the characterization of those characters is really, really good. Like, Odin is such a mob boss, and Thor is such his enforcer, and it's really, really well done. Like, I really, really enjoyed that part of it. But in telling this bigger story, it gets so lost in the weeds. It's really up its own arse in places, and the story is nowhere near what they told in God of War 2018. And a lot of the changes they make to the gameplay in God of War Ragnarok are in service of telling that story. I won't spoil it, but there are major sections of that game that I really actively disliked playing. They
Yeah.
felt
Okay.
they felt like they should have been just like bonus missions or something like that. But they go on far, far, far too long, and they took away time from doing the thing that I really enjoy about that game, which is gearing up Kratos so that I can defeat Valkyries and pirate spirits and all the hard stuff that they throw at you in that game.
Yeah.
And for huge stretches of that game, they take that away from you, and I really did not enjoy that.
See, so okay, let's have our discussion about God of War. So, like, I was surprised by your take on it, and like, I've done some listening today. I've been listening to a God of War Ragnarok spoiler cast, and interesting enough, it was very split. It was 4 people on the podcast, and it was very split. Where there's someone really positive about it when they weren't expecting to be, and there was someone who was really hopeful for it, and they were a bit let down by it. And someone who enjoyed the first one and was just like, yeah, this is all right. But they mentioned similar things with the segments that you're referencing throughout Ragnarok. Um, I've really enjoyed those parts of Ragnarok. I really did.
Fair
Where I was
enough.
like, oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. And then when I realized, and obviously trying hard not to spoil the stuff, but like when I realized, okay, this isn't like this short thing. It made me hyped. Where I was like, okay, this is cool. And there were parts where I was like, yeah, like sometimes it would go a bit longer. I'd be like, okay, I want to get back to what I was doing here. But then sometimes I'd be over there and be like, okay, I want to get back to what I was doing over there and go back to that. I really
Talking around this
enjoyed
stuff feels really weird,
I
but
really
kick on.
enjoyed the
you can
changes. No, no,
just
no.
talk.
It's
I
fine.
really enjoyed the changes in combat in this game. I feel like that stuff that we're referencing helps with combat, and I actually really enjoyed that combat. There is a thing that Kratos unlocks later in the game that I freaking loved and was not expecting to happen in this game. And getting that weapon, like I loved it. Like I loved that weapon, and that was my primary weapon
Yeah, right.
moving forward. I really liked the use of that.
I used it a lot, but it didn't make the game feel any different.
I really feel like it did. I feel like it changed the way I played and the way I
Yeah,
did stuff.
it had a cool mechanic to it. Like I have no problem with that part of it.
Yeah.
Really, it's the fact that I spent so long
So
not being able to do those things.
is your biggest problem with Ragnarok story or gameplay? Do you feel like as a story? I know you say there's bits that drag on or stuff like this. As a narrative, do you feel like this is stronger than God of War
No,
2018?
nowhere near. Like
Wow, I'm the complete opposite.
it's a messy story. It's a
No.
messy story full of MacGuffins.
No. So see, here's the thing.
That story has the biggest MacGuffin, and it goes absolutely nowhere.
So I loved God of War 2018. I really did. I wasn't a big fan of the series before that. Obviously, they rebooted it, which was the right thing to do. And I really enjoyed it. It wasn't my game of the year in 2018, Red Dead Redemption 2. And my boy, Arthur Morgan, won game of the year for me that year. But this game, and we talked about it, like when we did our predictions and like our fantasy draft. I was like, I don't know, I feel a bit iffy about Ragnarok. I was like, I don't feel confident that it'll be like a step up. I was like, it's changed, not changed, but like it was a new director
Yeah.
in charge of the second one, and I was just like, I don't know, I hadn't seen anything that had won me over and convinced me that this wasn't going to be more of the same. And I loved Ragnarok way more than the first one. I loved the story. It got to me way more, like the emotional beats in that story. The characters I feel like were so much more fleshed out. Characters that I feel like were just side characters that were there for a gameplay mechanic in the first one. I feel like were very meaningful in the second one and like pulled on my heartstrings.
The characters you're talking about had some good moments. Like they're probably the best. The
And
story
how these
of those two characters is probably the best part of this game.
and
But
like
it's also a really small story.
if there's a complaint that can be lodged, like I feel like it's long and there's a lot of stuff that um like there's no way to finish this game quick. I feel like on like they were talking about on the other podcast I was listening to, but how long to beat? I think like its main through, if you just like try and speed straight through the story, it's still going to get you 25 to 30 hours or so.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to just breeze through the main quest in this game. And it sticks with like the one shot thing as much as it can. With camera trickery and stuff like that. Whether that's to its detriment or not, it's a decision they decided to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's never a thing where I'm like, oh, thank God it didn't camera cut there. It's sort of, and I feel like if there is any argument to be had against God of War, is that there could be big chunks of this game cut out that could be done in a cutscene if they weren't trying to stick to the one shot.
Yes.
Where it'd be like,
Yes.
oh, you know what, you could have just cut to this place. And like had people
Yes.
arriving here instead of like, well, we need to make our way there, so we're sticking with the one
That's.
camera thing. So
I wish they had done that, honestly.
yeah,
And
Yep.
I have other niggling issues with this game. Like the dialogue in this game has become very, very quippy. Like particularly, like I don't know, the first one's not great for it either, but I've heard a lot of people call it the Marvelization.
No.
Like there's a lot of.
You're talking
quipping.
about Atreus, right?
No, they all do it, but
No,
Atreus is particularly bad.
Atreus is a bit bad with when he's talking and like he does that thing that like people rip on Forspoken about, and like they're very
Yes.
much like I know Conan loves this sort of dialogue. Like, okay, so I'm on this sort of beast right into this place. What the hell is going on? Like,
Yeah.
whoa, what a crazy day! This is totally normal.
Yeah.
It does have a bit of that, and it's a bit okay, but there's characters that are missing in that, which are usually like the vocal piece that set the scene. So I know they got to fill it in with dialogue and stuff like
So
that.
just don't do it that way. Just do it as a
No,
cutscene. Just don't do it
100%.
that way.
But the performances in this game are so strong.
They're good.
I love this cast. Like the entire cast in this
Yeah.
is amazing. Like I really, really want to see like a live action version of this Thor. This Thor is awesome. And like this Thor and Odin dynamic, I'm like, I want to see that. Like this is way better than Chris Hemsworth. Like I'm completely sold on this Thor. The opening scene in this game, like with them, is there's like a whole hour there where it's just this like slow like thing where you're like it's building up to something. And I was just like enthralled from like the get-go. Like with the introduction of Thor and the introduction of Odin, I was like, this is so cool. Like these
They're
characters
really-
are so damn cool.
That moment is really good.
Yeah.
You're right, but
And I just feel like the stuff they do in this game and the way they do Norse mythology stories and play on it and do their own interpretations of stuff, as a fan of Norse mythology, it's really cool, I feel like. And there's stuff where like stuff would click with me where I'm like, oh my God, that's where this is going. Or it would click with me afterwards where I was like, oh my God, I didn't even consider that that's what's happening here. That's this story that's being told. But their interpretation of characters in this, like Heimdall is fucking awesome. Like
Yeah,
I
he's
really like that character.
Yeah.
And like I just I don't want to talk about it, but like
Richard Schiff plays Odin.
yes, and he's so good.
Oh, that's a good choice.
He's so good as
Yeah.
Odin.
Good
Like
choice.
it's such a different Odin than what you're used to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice.
And it's freaking awesome. Christopher Judge as Kratos, like
Yeah.
so good. And like did you I don't want to touch on any stuff that is big spoilers, but like did you do much post like credits? Like did you get into any of the post game like
I
content?
did everything the game gives you to
Oh,
do.
you platinumed it, right? Didn't
Yes.
you? Yeah.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed story beats that pick up afterwards where it like answers like this question or it answers this riddle from earlier, and it's like, okay, that's really cool. And like there's stuff, there's twists in this game that retroactively I go back and like look at stuff from earlier on in the game where I'm like, okay, cool. I didn't pick up on that the first time. That's really cool. That's interesting how they've done that. And like, yeah, we will have a spoiler cast about it one day in 2025 when Conan plays Ragnarok.
And I'll have forgotten what I dislike about it, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's your number 3. So,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I basically just talked about for my pick later. But my number 3 would be WWE 2K 2K22. It was. So just want to briefly touch on, because this was probably my most played game of the year that I played the most. It'd been a few years since a WWE game had been good. They'd actually quit and cancelled out a year. They didn't release a game because they were like, 2K20 was disastrous. Or 2K21, I believe. 2K20, sorry, was disastrous and was so buggy that they were like, okay, we need to take a year off, reevaluate what we're doing, and come back.
Like,
Because it was just a horrible mess. And I had a lot of fun with the game. Obviously, if you're not a wrestling fan, you probably won't be playing this game, but it's a fun multiplayer game. It's fun to just, create your character, put them through the story of like becoming an up and coming wrestler, going through the indie territory and making your way to the WWE and everything like that. And there's some interesting stories there. And I talked about it on a podcast earlier in the year, but my son and I were both playing, because my son's into wrestling as well. We're both playing our characters, and like, you're trying to get popular on social media as your wrestler and all this sort of stuff. And my son didn't understand why me being a bad guy got more followers when we're in the same place, because I'm like, well, fans like the bad guy
you're
more.
like,
No,
here's a
and
lesson for
it was
life,
this big
son.
moral thing for him where he's like, I don't get it. I'm a good guy. Why are people not supporting me as much? I'm like, that's life.
Yeah, that's a metaphor.
But really fun game. Really fun game. Has some interesting downloadable content, characters that you can play as. So you can literally fight Logan Paul in a cage match if you want, or Machine Gun
But,
Kelly
yeah,
if that's what you want to do.
So can you kill people in that game?
No, you can't. Unfortunately, you can bloody them up and punch them around and throw them off a cage or something like that. But no murder, unfortunately, anymore. The old SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. You could kill people like that. That was insane. But Conan, what is your number 3 game of 2022? Did you play 3 games?
it was tough. It was tough. I
Yes.
won't talk about God of War because that's the 4 years old at this point, but that'd definitely be one of them. Marvel Snap. Marvel Snap's really good. I don't know. I feel like we spoke about this as well. I think we saw with the award show a bit.
Yeah, we've talked about it, but
yeah, I don't. I'm a big card game player. I'm a Magic player from way back, and as Griner has very elegantly stated many times before, it just does a lot with mechanics. It does enough with new mechanics, but it's not overly complex either. That it's not like Warhammer or something that you really have to sit down and invest in and go, okay, I'm gonna commit 20 hours to get into this game. It's like, no, you can pick it up and within minutes, it's like I know exactly how it works. And it's simple enough to learn very fast, but it's complex enough that it's a good card game in that sense, that small learning curve, but the complexities go up, or they open up as you get better at the game.
Yeah.
And there's layers to it that you unravel. That's sort of exactly what you want from this sort of medium. It's a lot of fun. I don't really care for Marvel, but it's cool seeing. I also like seeing Marvel stuff in these little small things. I don't like seeing them in my movies, but I like Marvel characters in card games and comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
And then you get to see something I like. So many characters I never even heard of or knew anything about, but I'm
Yes.
like, oh, this cool raccoon girl has a squirrel girl has a lot of squirrels. That's kind of cool. And
Yeah, that's fun.
There's some fun little things there, and the fact that those games are like 2 minutes long is like amazing. It's really good for a mobile game.
Very nice, yeah. Exactly. Like I'm playing a bunch on, I don't know, on my lunch break or something, and my battery's not dead at the end of it, and I'm not like, a 30-minute investment that I lose. It's good.
Yep.
So I sent a video in our group chat a while ago about someone talking about Marvel Snap. So there's a mechanic in this, right, where you bet something. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you can snap, and basically the gems are your rank in the season, and so you can normally for a win you get 2 and you lose 1 if you lose, but you can double that by snapping, and then if your opponent snaps, you can also snap on top of that to double it again. So you end up winning 8, but they'll lose 4. I don't worry, I do not care about my rank in that game very much, so I rarely think about snapping unless someone else snaps. I'm like, oh, I think I can win this, and I snap. It's not I don't know. It's not a thing for me because I could care less about my rank. That's the
Does it
other
make it
idiot.
exciting though when someone does it? Because you're like,
No.
okay, they're confident they can beat me.
Yeah.
I'm more
For that
excited
reason-
when someone, plays a cool card in a cool spot and it does something I didn't expect, and like has a nearly infinite loop or something like that. Like I've had that happen a few times. I'm like, oh, this is cool, but.
Yeah.
Or like when I'm playing someone with the same deck and we both do the Spider-Man pointing meme emote, that's a lot of fun. Like they're the interactions I enjoy in that game. I could care less about my rank. I'm just having fun. But
Yeah.
I can see why some people that's insidious and appealing.
Yeah, for that reason, I snap every game I play, no matter what. As soon as I get to like turn 4, I'm just like, yep, cool, I don't care. Yeah, that ranking's never been an issue for me because I think I don't take this game seriously in that sense. If this was something that I was like competitively doing, like the way I played Magic or something, really put time and money to like study the game, it could be a bit of a. Well, sorry, was this thing you said in the chat? I don't even know if I watched it. Was it this guy saying it was problematic, or was he?
No. He was basically saying this is what makes this game like addictive. He's like, it makes me a bad person because like I get, I'm gonna ruin this person's day, or like I wanna react with this. It was like a comedy take on it, and him explaining it that way, I was like, oh, okay, I can see why people would get like this addiction of like, oh, that's interesting. Like I can see the
Like, there's definitely something to the stakes in it, right? Like, it's like, again, with like, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, whatever. Casual, like, kitchen table play is really fun with your friends, but there really is something about it that becomes a lot more, dare I say, interesting when you have stakes on the table, whether you have a bit of money there, or you go to like FNM's competitive events. Yeah. It's like $10 entry, and you could win $50. You could win like that makes that game a lot more intriguing, at least because you're like, okay, I've actually got to play properly. People take it a bit more seriously. Whereas when it's just casual, light fun, there's a lot more of like, well, you don't care. So someone always at the end of it. This is with other card games. Someone always gets a bit bored by the end. Someone's just messing around. And so if you ever want to take it seriously, really, if you really want to explore what the game has to offer and play it properly, it's hard to do without those stakes. And so I guess the Gems is this game's way of doing that, which helps.
To this game's credit, though, there's very few. Like, even if you ranked all the way through, you're not getting so many resources that you're. It's not pay to win. By having all of those resources, you're not going to be better than me. So that's another reason why I don't think I care about my rank, because all the progression is tied to upgrading your cards and unlocking more cards, but I'm not getting more powerful cards. I'm just getting different cards. I'll just see different things as I rank up. I'm not necessarily going to be weaker because I don't have all those cards. I mean, if you want to play a specific deck and you don't have this card yet, I can understand that being the case. But yeah, the monetization is very, very fair, but as a result, I don't care about my rank, because that would be another way I could rank up and get more coins, and then I might care about it. But I just don't care about the monetization, because it's not a thing. It's cosmetic mostly.
Which is good. It's not. Doesn't feel that sinister. It's
to their credit, and I have put money into the game as a result. Like, I'm like, I'm going to buy the battle pass. It's fun.
Yeah. No. Good. Griner, your second best game of 2022 that's not God of War Ragnarok.
This is a big game, and I'm surprised it's my number 2. No, it's Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors. I love this game. It's so much fun. It's the simplest game in the world. Like, you pick it up and you play it. You literally move around the screen. That's all you do. That's all you do is you move your character, and they automatically attack. But there's just this deceptive depth to it. Like, you figure out, I've got to pick up these gems to level up. And then if I pick these 2 combination of items and level them all the way up, they can combine together and I get a more powerful item. And you are just becoming this ball of death that kills all the enemies on the screen. There's some sort of slot machine mechanic going on there or something, because by the end of that game, it sounds like a slot machine. Like, you're constantly picking up gems and stuff. I don't know. There's something that tickles your brain because it's like digital crack. I really, really enjoy just getting a really powerful character and just destroying everything on the screen and I mean, the rounds are 30 minutes, which is a great length. And there's just, I don't know, there's all these little surprises that you pick up along the way. I just love this game. It's so much fun.
Over God of War Ragnarok.
Yes, way
Man.
over God of War Ragnarok.
Man, this digital crack is too strong.
Yeah, and it's just come out on mobile. Well, it's been out on. It's just come out on iOS. It's been out on Android for a while. So I
what were you
started
playing?
playing. I was playing on PC, and now I've been playing on. This last week while I've been on holidays, I've been playing on mobile, going through and unlocking everything again. It's like it looks dumb, like it looks old, it looks simple, but there's something about this game. I don't know. It's almost hard to pinpoint how fun this game is, and why it's so fun. I love it.
So does everyone else, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk like highly of this game, actually. So, yeah,
It was literally I bought it for $3. $3 is what I've spent for this game. It's amazing.
It's a steal.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's a steal. That's some cheap crack,
Yeah, that's right.
as far as crack is concerned. So my second best game of the year would be Horizon Forbidden West. So, as Griner can attest, this game, what a game, fantastic. So obviously this came out at the start of the year. For some reason, again, was overlooked because of another game that really is half the game of this, but it came out shortly afterwards and sort of stole the thunder. I think mainly because it was available to more people. So,
that's the
you know,
only
that's
reason.
why more people were playing that. You could play that game because it doesn't take much to run that.
Horizon Forbidden West's been appearing on a lot of top 10 lists. I've been seeing it everywhere.
It has been.
No,
dude, it was a nominee for Game of the Year at the Game
Not a single
Awards.
top 10 I've looked at has had it in it. I'm
You
sorry.
know what's funny about this?
This game
I
is
literally
bad.
almost sent a screenshot the other day because it was in IGN's top 10 for best open world games of all time.
Polygon has it as a number 40.
That list is horrible.
If that's anything.
So anyway, this game, obviously a follow up to the 2017 Game of the Year, Horizon Zero Dawn. I feel like it's just, while it is more of Zero Dawn, I feel like it improves in a lot of areas, and I feel like the story is really good. Griner did touch on this in another podcast where it does have the thing of being obviously the middle of a trilogy, at least, where it's, you know, bridging the gap between the first story and the third, like the finale. But what it does to set up the third one really interests me, and it wasn't something I was really expecting, where it's kind of not, I don't want to spoil too much, but it kind of has gives
I'm
me,
never playing this game.
it kind of gives me
Spoil it, please.
No, it kind of gives me Mass Effect vibes where we're going with the third one, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like this is really interesting to me, and the way it ended in Forbidden West has me really interested in what is out there. Like I really like the backstory of this world. Like I really, really do. I remember playing Zero Dawn and being fascinated by the, like, you go to the locations of what happened, like what Earth was before Zero Dawn happened. Like listening to the audio logs and all this sort of stuff. It was fascinating to me, and I really liked like this world, you know, like all these machines, like these robot dinosaurs that you're killing with bows and arrows, like what each of them were for, like what they were built for this specific purpose, or that's what, you know, like to basically replenish the earth and like to act as animals, like to, you know, do all these functions and everything like that, and to have the ecosystem work. But the way the story's going, I was really interested in. I feel like some of the side characters in this are really strong. Kotaro is one of my favorite characters in games this year. Grana, you know who I'm talking about?
Is that the guy with the one arm?
Yeah. I thought he was the strongest of her like side companions. I really liked.
He's really cool.
The acting, I thought he was a strong character. The like, not that this makes a game good, but I really feel like the facial animation is really good in this game. Some of the characters, like, they look really, really good. Like, and not just like a normal character. Like, they look like real people, like a diverse group of characters. And it's just, I don't know. It's a fun game. I feel like I didn't play it how I was meant to play. I didn't use too much other than the bow and arrow. Well, the first one I used a bunch of tools.
Nobody did because the combat sucks.
No, in the first one I used the rope caster a lot and the trip wires and all this. While this one, I felt like I was just shooting everything with bow and arrows, and I was just like running around. The melee is obviously not great. It is improved in this one over the first one. I rarely use mounts, which seems to be a thing for some people that they like. I just run everywhere with Aloy. I feel like it's the same speed, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Just
it's got a cool
don't
gliding
know.
mechanic, which I'm sure
No.
the next Zelda will rip off, but it was a good game. I really enjoyed it. It's not my game of the year, but it is a strong game for the year.
Is everyone still really clean in it?
No, people dirty and muggy and
Is Aloy still
sweaty.
clean?
Nah, she's got face paint on.
But is she clean? Like, is there dirt and
Yeah.
filth, or is it
Just
face
dirt.
paint?
You can't even see
People are pretty clean.
her skin.
I'm out.
People are pretty clean.
Nah, stupid. That's bad.
I feel,
Bad
I don't
game
know.
design.
I know what you're saying about like the backstory. Like, I think the setting of that world is really interesting, and it's a cool idea, right? Like, machine dinosaurs, give me it. Like, I love the idea of that, but it's just not that fun to play. Like, I only use the bow and arrow too. I tried rope casters, and they just don't feel effective. They don't feel like they do anything. I'd rather just have 4 bows that have all the different elemental types on them, and that's all I'm going to use.
The bow is cool though. The bow is cool.
Is it though? Because the problem with the bow is that it then. Here we go. The combat's very fast paced, but bows are very slow, so you end up having a lot of slow mo. Like, you're constantly in slow mo in that game, and it feels kind of weird. Like, it feels like a real crutch for that game to just put you in slow mo all the time because the combat doesn't work otherwise.
Conan, you're a fan of Fallout.
I am a fan of Fallout.
Very
That's
don't even
completely
compare.
different
Don't even
slow mo.
compare.
No.
Completely different.
Fallout relies on its shitty gunplay by slowing down everything and
It
having you
doesn't.
just aim
It does
directly
because
where
it's an
you should.
RPG.
Because the gameplay, and so is Horizon.
Oh, this is such a weird argument.
No, wait. VATS
it's
is
not.
VATS is not a. VATS is like you use it a few times and then you fight. Like, you go
No,
down to the.
You use
mano
VATS
mano.
every time you shoot because it's that.
Yeah, but
bad
you
to
run.
shoot
But you
normally.
run out of VATS.
You run out
The
of
whole thing-
slowdown.
It's designed to be like you use VATS for a few headshots and then you just go in
By
there.
the time
and
you
fight
get the
all
upgrades in that game, the game very rarely runs outside of slow mo when you're fighting anything.
I really enjoy using the bow and arrow in that game. Like, you're sliding
fun,
on
like, it
animals,
is-
you're shooting their bellies.
It's cool.
You're blowing
And
off.
So
blasters off
you
their
sent
arm
it.
and
You
picking up
sent
the
you sent a video to the chat of a guy playing, and you were very mad because it looked really cinematic. And then he's like,
so
how is Elden Ring better than this?" And it's fine, but that guy used every cooldown he could, and didn't fight the mammoth or whatever is the way you're supposed to, because he wasn't chipping off the parts he needs for crafting. He was just shooting it. Like, the way they want you to play that game is to knock the pieces off, which requires very precise aiming with a very slow weapon against a very fast moving enemy. So you just end up in slow mo the whole time. It's a real crutch. I think it's a real problem with that gameplay. As you say, the melee is crap, and that would be more fun. I would much prefer to be using melee against the beasts and a bow and arrow against people instead of the other way around.
So if Horizon had God of War combat,
Yes,
would it be a much better game for you?
absolutely.
Do you enjoy the story?
No, the story kind of sucks. The setting's good, the story's not that great. And where they're heading just seems to be like, here's another big bad for you to fight. Woohoo. I wonder if Gaia will be disassembled again. We got to find her pieces again. Like, Conan doesn't care about this story. Nobody cares about the story of this game.
Yeah,
The people who left Earth to go on, I don't know where they were going to colonize another planet, came back, and they were trying to take Gaia with them because there's a big beast coming. Like, there's a big, what is it? Their consciousness that they uploaded to the cloud has become manifest as destroying worlds. It's so stupid.
Which one's Gaia again?
That's the
Mother Earth,
AI
basically.
the AI that controls all the production of the robots.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I really didn't like the. I didn't care for the story at all. The first one.
Dude,
And
Silence is cool.
I think the graphics is too much. There's too many graphics. Like, it's a nice looking game, but it's hard to see.
This is what you said last time.
It's so hard to see anything.
I'm fascinated by this too many graphics complaint, right? And I get it. I get it when, like, people's game of the year is Elden Ring and it looks like it runs on PS3.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
With no facial features, no textures, no nothing.
Yep.
25 frame rates a second.
Yep.
I get it. But, like, everyone in the tech industry and the gaming industry respects Digital Foundry, right? Digital Foundry gave Horizon Forbidden West their best graphics of 2022. They said it is the best graphical game.
It has the most graphics, but when I'm playing that game and I can't find a guy because he's in the underbush and there's a million animals running around and there's butterflies moving, and I have to keep using the yes, it is because I have to keep using the scan to see anything. I might as well just be in detective vision all the time, like you did in fucking Batman. It's the same. It's the same problem. That game looked really nice, but you spent all your time in detective vision because it was so much more useful.
I mean, if you depend on that, I just like to be all natural.
Okay, all right, let's move on.
The enemy
I'm happy for you that you enjoyed it. It's not anywhere near my top 10.
Conan, we're up to you, I believe. Your second game, best game of 2020.
Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, there we go.
No, not gonna happen. Let's talk. I don't know. Have we already talked about it? Dusk Falls at length.
We did a whole podcast about it.
I really need to write down what I play because I've played other games. I tried Tunic. I tried Tunic. I tried. What was it? Death's Door. I played
that
Inside.
Was last year.
Was that like? Yeah, that's the thing. Like the games that I played.
Inside was like 3 years ago.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I don't keep up with shit. Okay. And I'm sorry. I'm a bad man. I admit it. I'm a bad person. Is that what you want to hear? That's fine.
Well, here's the thing. I was going to ask this with Grown Up, but I'm happy for you to put God of War in and talk about God of War. Because like
2018
I was going to ask Griner where he would put Returnal, since he played that for the first time this year. It came out last year, but I was curious, like how obviously probably not game of the year, but I was interested in Griner's opinion on Returnal. So, did you want to talk about God of War at all, or?
Yeah, I can talk about that. That's I can't talk about. All right, so God of War is a game. It's made by this company, Santa Monica Studios, I think. And you play the God of War, who actually isn't the. I don't know. I think Kratos isn't really the God of War in mythology.
He was the God of War.
No, he's the son of someone, isn't he?
He became the God of War, didn't he?
He became the God of War by killing the God of War.
The God of War is Mars or Ares. Anyway, let's not get down in the weeds.
Yes.
It's a good game. I'm very far into it. I'm hooked. Like I was up till 1:30 the other night playing it because I was sailing around the Lake of Nine, being like, there's a new frigging cave that I haven't found because the water's lower. I forgot about this, so then I'm going up towers and finding travelers. I'm like, well, of course I'm going to spend 20 minutes fighting this shitty traveler guy.
More because the water level's changed. It's really cool. I do like that.
So that was cool, and I finally figured out how the map kind of works now. It took me a long time to be able to sort of properly read it because I'm not very smart, but I cracked it. And, I've killed 3 Valkyries now, and I feel like a god. So, like, you guys have spoken about it at length, but I guess it's, the combat system is fantastic, and it feels original enough. It doesn't feel too, for a long time, combat, like third-person action was just Ubisoft's formula of, like, parry or, like, block combo, like, whatever. This kind of takes all that, but it does enough with it that it feels really fast-paced, and it gets very chaotic, but then you can go God mode pretty easily. You can literally go Spartan Rage, whatever. Yeah. So the combat is really fun, and even though it's all fairly straightforward, there's enough there that it's constantly interesting. Obviously, you can combo stuff, use all your powers, just roll back, throw an axe, pull it into a cool leap slash, go Spartan Rage, beat the shit. Like it's very fun. Yeah. But then it's a good combination as well. It's not too big. Like it's open world, but it's not quite open world. It's still decently linear. I guess and that's kind of what's keeping me really into it, I guess. Like biggest problem now that I'm a 29-year-old man with responsibilities is that games like Horizon, where it's like here's a 50-hour minimum world of just lots of plans to explore. I'm like, I just can't do it. I don't care. Whereas this is like, here's enough of a world that there is cool stuff to explore, like a cave system that I forget's there. I'm like, there's probably a chamber there that has a Valkyrie, but it's still linear enough to take me back and go, cool, I know where to go from here. So,
and it's very much laid out like a tree of like, here's a bunch of linear paths that you can follow to the end of that path and then come back and then go down another path to a thing, not just wandering around a giant.
Yeah, exactly right. It all kind of comes back really nicely. And it takes a lot of like page from the Dark Souls or the Soulsborne world of like, it's vertical. Yeah. And so you kind of will go up a mountain edge, and you'll climb up there, and you get there, and you unlock areas to go to other places there, and then you come back because you open the shortcut at the end.
Yep.
And so all that's like it's learned the best of that form of game design, which really helps. It's a really nice way to do it. And then on top of it all, like you guys were talking about before, the story is really solid. Like the father-son story is just it's basic, it's contained, it's very human. It's why all classic blockbusters work, because despite everything going on, despite the interesting adaptation mythology and the interesting use of these two different worlds of gods colliding and like how that works, it's a really cool idea. But anchoring it all is just a father learning to, basically learning to become a father, and a son who's dealing with his responsibilities and his new power, and that's really cool. Like, there's some moment, I think I messaged you guys pretty early on. Yeah, ironically, it's very human. I messaged really early on. I'm like, Atreus just needs a hug.
Yeah.
And then as Kratos starts to open up, and he's like, "You've done well." I'm like, you hit me in the heart, man.
I nearly replied to that. The one guy with the emotional intelligence to give him a hug has no body, so he can't. Like it's really good.
Whereabouts are you up to in the first one at the moment? I'm conscious of saying anything.
So I just cleared out Tyr's storeroom. I just came across the other brother, Modin. There's Thor's two sons.
And Magni.
Yeah, and you kill one, and then the other one finds you again, and then you find him. And so I know Atreus knows he's a god, and he's going through his mopey, like, I'm a god.
He's going through his angsty teen
phase. Yeah. And so
he's the worst for that section.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying already, but he's just killed Modi. Like, he walks up and just puts a knife in his throat.
Stabs him and just, kicks him off the ledge.
I mean, Kratos is pretty useless. He just stands there, and then he's like, I told you not to kill him. It's like, what are you doing, man? But nevertheless, so I'm there. I think I'm nearing the end, like, this area, because I got the trophy for it. It's like explore all that the Lake of Night has to offer. So I've unlocked a bunch of that. Maybe I'm not, but I feel like I'm starting to near the end a bit.
You'd probably say, I'd say maybe 3/4 or so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
How good is Mimir? I love Mimir.
Mimir's great.
He's great.
It's the acting, and he's such a great character. I love just hearing him tell story. I'll hop back into the boat because I'm like, oh shit, he didn't finish his story.
I'll do a lot of just sailing around. It's a really good use of, like, because obviously for the relationship with the core, you need Kratos to be cold and silent and stoic, and you need Atreus to always be bouncing it off. But that gets tired fast, so it's a great way to offset that. Now you've got two people who can bounce it around, and that adds enough comedy that Kratos gets involved as well. Like, it's a good dynamic they add.
True.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. I knew I would. I'm sorry it took me 4 years, but
and dude, how good is Jeremy Davies?
Yeah, he's great. Like I said, when Boulder turns up and you just do the stupidest fight in the world, you like tear a mountain down.
It's a Dragon Ball Z fight. It's so good.
It's so ridiculous, but I'm like, oh, I get it now, because I didn't even realize. I didn't know that if this was actually like a continuation of the original story. Or if it was like a complete remake. So I was like, maybe he's not even a god. He's actually just a really strong man, but it's like a title. I didn't know. But then when he just starts beating the crap out of him and just heals again, I'm like, oh no, I am a god. This is going to get really wacky. And it's a really good way to have, again, the constant human story anchoring it, but then you tear these monsters apart, and you'll grab
sometimes.
you'll grab this
from the jaw down.
Like you get on top of an ogre. All of that cool. Like, that's all really fun, and it's a really good. It's really complimentary. I like it.
Yeah,
nice.
Griner, before we get to your game, is there anything you want to say about Returnal? Because I'm interested in.
I mean, I talked about it at length. It would be in my top 3. It probably would be number 2, I think. I really, really loved Returnal. Again, it's another one of those stories where there's actually a really small story there, although it's a lot more obscured in Returnal. But it's really fascinating the way they tell it, and I really enjoyed the gameplay of that game.
That twist you told me still makes me be like, oh man, I want to play that. That's such a cool.
It's such a good moment in that game. Like, you think you finished the game, and it's like, shit, I'm back here again.
Yeah,
so good. Very well done.
We'll get into your game of the year. I feel like I know what it is, but What is your game of the year for 2022, Grant?
My game of the year for 2022 is Elden Ring.
It's a given.
It's nearly a given, yeah. There's only been a few games in recent memory that have made me feel like a kid playing video games again. Breath of the Wild was one of them. I just felt like anything could happen at any moment, and that's what was happening for me in Elden Ring. There was just so many cool little moments where unexpected things would happen, and like I just wanted to explore that whole world for just to explore it, just to see what was there, because there was so many unique experiences I had along the way. And you know, there are repeated stuff. There's catacombs and stuff that are pretty much the same every time you go through them, but there's so many unique little experiences you get in that game, and I just like it. For that studio to take a well-worn formula now, like the Dark Souls formula, and make it open world and to have it work so well and be so unique is a real testament to them. Like that game is outstanding. There's just so many surprising moments. Like going down the well into the caverns underneath,
Yeah.
and it's just this really long elevator ride. It's like shit, and then you look up and there's stars in the sky, and you feel like you're in another world. And multiple times in that game you get warped around the map, and it's like shit, is the map really this big? Like I cannot believe how huge this world is. Amazing. I love it.
That's the thing. We do have about maybe 8 bonus XP podcasts.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot.
Elden Ring discussions that.
Yeah.
If you really want, Conan, we'll move on to you because obviously your game of the year is Elden Ring as well.
Easily.
Yeah.
Like there's no question. Yeah, it just became the phenomenon that it shouldn't have been, but it was just super big, revolutionized. Not even revolutionized, I guess, but kind of revolutionized a formula that seemed unrevolutionizable just by making it open world and doing it so well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just kind of like these other, this is like watching, I don't know, who's a sports star? Michael Jordan.
Andrew Johns.
It's like watching Andrew Johns during the peak of whenever he was good at the sport he played.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, you guys just keep getting better and better and better and better. And this is wonderful. This is why these people become the names of history. And this is why Elden Ring's so good, because like, how do you guys keep doing it? How do you do this stuff? So, but yeah, it's like, to Grata's point, like the sense of wonder that game achieved, like I was hooked on it for like 6 months, and that just, that doesn't happen much.
I mean, you had a bit of a treat. You played that and Breath of the Wild for the first time this year.
I did. Yeah, there's been, okay, I played a lot of games. None of them released this year.
A few years, but
that's my problem.
And big games that took up a lot of your time. Sort of
yes.
Thing. Yes. But, so I'll just ask, and I'm sure we talked about it in one of the podcasts, but so do you feel like they kept improving? Like, is Elden Ring their best game?
We've had this exact conversation.
Yes.
I'm sick of it.
But I'm intrigued because you said it low. Is it better than Bloodborne?
No, it's not better, but they expand on it. They expand on it. It's different. Yes. It's a different thing. It's like a matter of opinion for starters.
Okay.
Like I can see why if you don't like the gothic aesthetic of Bloodborne, you're never going to be like best game. Now, but I think they combine in that game the best use of aesthetic with a frantic sort of gameplay that they already have in there. They're just different. For me, that works better, but that's a preference thing.
Yes.
Do they continue with that? Is their next game in the similar vein of Elden Ring, or do they go a more, not linear, but as in more Dark Souls, Bloodborne?
Yeah, I wonder what they got next. Like, they're obviously doing their robot game next. I can't. The name escapes me.
It's Armored Core.
Armored Core,
yeah. So that's coming next. I'm keen to see what that game is. I know it's not Dark Souls, but
no,
I still trust this studio because I don't. For me, they haven't missed any of the games I've played of theirs. I've enjoyed. Yeah. I hope they do something different again. Like Sekiro was great. I would take a Sekiro 2. I would take a Bloodborne 2. I'd take a Bloodborne remake. I've got the original Bloodborne installed on my PlayStation, but I'm just holding out. I'm holding out hope that they announce a remake.
It's been 7 years. It's not happening.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, they have said that they're going to continue with Elden Ring. Like they've come out and talked about how successful that was and how much of a surprise it was. And I hope they can keep bringing that sense of wonder because, it'll be interesting to see if Tears of the Kingdom does it again this year.
Yes.
4
months away from that. 5 months.
Not far away at all.
No. we won't go into it too much. My game of the year is obviously The Last of Us Part 1. No. God of War Ragnarok.
You were so excited for that. Did you even play it?
No, I haven't played it yet. Um, like I said,
Why?
like I finally have for the next 2 weeks a peek into my personal life. Time away from work for the first time in about a year and a half. And literally the only thing I can think is I have a week where I'm just home alone, and I fully intend the first thing I'm doing will be playing The Last of Us Part 1 all the way through. Obviously, just with timeline wise, I prioritized Ragnarok over that. By the time it was time to play it, and um, I feel like it'll be exciting to play it around time The Last of Us show's airing on HBO as well. So I'll be watching
Nice.
that and then playing through the remake. So
It's
it
a lot of
actually
Last of
times up
Us.
because that comes out next weekend, and that's when I've got time off. So I'll be playing it around the same time, which will be interesting. But God of War Ragnarok already talked about it at the start of the podcast. For me personally, it topped the original in every way. I loved the story. I can't stop thinking about the story. I love going on YouTube and finding new things that I didn't notice on my first playthrough. There's a part of me that wants to play through it again. I haven't platinumed it, so there's still a bunch of post game stuff for me to do. Um, like I'm kind of famous for not doing everything before a game and just playing through the main story. Like Conan says, he's already beaten 3 Valkyries. I didn't
Hell
even
yeah.
I didn't even fight one Valkyrie until I'd finished God of War, and then a year later went back and found a Valkyrie by following a guide, and then I was like, oh, cool, I'll fight a Valkyrie now, finally.
Shame.
Um, so I don't explore too much. I don't have the patience to explore, which is probably why Elden Ring isn't on my list because
Yeah.
it's a game, and
No, wait, but
literally
you played Horizon. What are you talking about?
Horizon's different.
You mainlined Horizon.
And I did mainline Horizon very
What?
much. There's still a
You
lot of
can't really
missions there.
mainline Elden Ring, to be fair.
And like,
It just doesn't work that way.
That
here's
is
the thing:
true.
as much as I poke fun of Elden Ring, like I love Bloodborne, I like the Souls games. I wish I could love Elden Ring. Like, it
I'm
sounds
thinking
like.
about buying it for my PlayStation. I could guide you through that world.
See, I
Mm.
wouldn't mind being guided. Like, I haven't with Bloodborne, and I was able to experience that just by having someone hold my hand who was a master at Bloodborne, and they just took me through it. And I was like, "Yay! Look at this! This is so cool! This is so messed up. This game." And I really enjoyed that world that way. I don't have the time or patience, and I don't know, just like I just want to have a game hold my hand and take me through a story at the end of the day. Like if I sit down to play a game, um, this sounds like the game that teenage me with no responsibilities, or like young adult me with no responsibilities would have adored. Like just to get
Yeah.
fully immersed in this game and be like, just what the hell can I discover? Like it really sounds like
Get that
that game that
childlike
I
wonder back in your life, though. That's you need it.
exactly. I know, and I know, Joe. I bought Elden Ring on release date. I bought it on release date for full price, and put it in, and I played an hour. And as much shade as I throw at it for like its frame rate and its jankiness,
What?
um,
What a criticism of
it
frame
was
rate.
like I got on it and I was just like, okay, where can I like okay, I'll ride as far as I can in this direction, ride past all these enemies. Okay, oh now I'm out fighting a boss. Like I got murdered. I was just I didn't have patience to try and just settle into that world, And I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I I'm not good at these games. So I wish I could. Where's the easy mode?
Don't
I
need them.
think
Where's
I
Don't
think
need them
where's
in
my
games.
quest tracker? My
No.
journal log.
don't need it. I think we have a fundamental difference on how we approach games, Luke, and I think that's why God of War is higher on your list than it is on mine. Like, you want someone to take your hand and guide you, take you through a story, whereas I want the gameplay. Like, give me
Yeah.
the challenges, give me the hard things, and yeah, God of War strips that away too many times.
Yeah, and I love it. I love it for that. So that's our game of the year for 2022. I do just want to quickly go around the grounds and just get some thoughts on what game we're most looking forward to this year to playing. Um, Conan, it could be a game that came out 4 years ago that you're very excited to start playing, or it could be a
Game
game
of
that's coming out. But growing up. obviously Tears of the Kingdom would be pretty high on your list.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean,
There's nothing else that's really. What about
I have a I want to say professional interest. I'm not a professional, but I'm keen to see what happens with is it Starfield.
Starfield?
Yeah, like
Mama.
I'm super curious about that game. I don't know that I'm super excited to play it, but as someone who loves the games industry, you know, anytime a big tentpole release comes out, I want to know how big it is, how good it is. Does it live up to the hype?
What I'm curious with then, because we haven't talked about it yet, because we just haven't been doing podcasts. Hades 2 is a coming.
Yeah.
So,
actually, hell yeah, Hades 2.
And yeah, that's what I'm curious. I was like, Hades 2 obviously doesn't have a release date for this year. I'd be surprised if it's not coming out this year.
I'd say the according to the website, they're doing early access again, which they were really successful with last time, and I'd say that will not be far away. So yeah,
are
I
you
will
more
definitely
excited for
pick
Hades
that
2 than Tears of the Kingdom? Or do you know what you're going to get with Hades 2?
No, I probably am.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I saw that announcement, I was like, Supergiant, yes, like this is what I wanted. And then I saw it was Hades 2 and I was a little disappointed. Like, I don't know. I almost want them to do something different, but Hades is my favorite of their games. It plays the best by far. So, yeah, I'm super, super excited for Hades 2.
And Conan. Obviously, Hogwarts Legacy is coming out in a few weeks.
That's my game.
Which I know tickles your muggle feathers.
Tickle my nuts.
But I do just want to get your thoughts. I'm not sure if you've watched the trailer, but your thoughts on Judas. I don't know if it's coming out this year. Probably not. But
I did watch the trailer.
What are your thoughts on Judas, and are you hyped for it?
Oh yeah, it looks just like Bioshock again, which
it really does.
Like it's Ken Levine. It's Ken Levine Bioshock. So like, how could I not want that in my life?
Yeah.
It's a good question if it comes out or not. I mean, if that comes out this year, yes, that would be my most excited because we haven't seen anything from him in a long time.
That'd be a huge surprise if it comes out this year.
Yeah.
But also,
he's been working on it for a long time, though. He has been working on it for ages. So,
yeah,
he was working on something else, though.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is related to that. His narrative Lego.
That's the thing. I'm not sure if it's the same game or if it's like this is kind of what he built in between or what they salvaged from the ruins. So part of it's almost cautious, you know, like games that are
a lot of questions about that game.
It's not in development hell, but it feels like it's in development hell, or it has been. So games that come from that are really good. But nevertheless, that would be my main pick.
And are you, seeing as you just finished Breath of the Wild, are you keen to jump back into like Tears of the Kingdom, or is it something you think you'll hold off on so you don't burn out?
I won't jump into it until 2027, so that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's fine. I'll be keen for it by then.
Yeah.
Again, it's Tears of the Kingdom, which is a ridiculous name. I don't know why they would do that. But anyway, no, I'm excited for that. I think I will play that probably on release or close to it at least, because even though I have only played Breath of the Wild recently, I think my experience of that game was a bit dulled by the fact that I missed the hype.
Yeah.
And so I played it and I was talking to people, I'm like, how good's that game? They're like, yeah, it was good. I remember when I played it 4 years ago. And I was like, well, this would have been nice to
this is an opportunity. We'll probably, me and Grana will both be playing that game when it comes out in May. You can jump on board with us, man.
Yeah, I probably will get it then, because every other game coming out this year as well, more and more they're becoming just current gen, you know?
Yes.
And I still don't have current gen, so I'll miss Dead Space. Depending on what Atomic Heart comes out on, I might miss that. Like, we'll see. It's a sad day for me in gaming.
My most anticipated game, I don't believe it will actually even come out this year. It hasn't been announced yet. But I recently have really quickly, suddenly started believing that we will get an announcement this year of The Last of Us Part 3.
Really? Why?
I didn't think this would be a thing ever before, but more and more recently, I'm like 100% it's happening.
Please explain why.
Neil Druckmann seems to making hints that there's way more stories to tell, and the story isn't finished from part 2, and that it'll actually be continuing with Ellie and Abby. They'll be telling more stories with them, and even Craig, is it Mazin or Marzin? I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Like they've basically said, you know, season 2 of the show will be part 2. And that might be split into 2 seasons because there's too much story to tell in one season there. So they reckon that'll be 2 and 3 seasons. And then they said, they're working with Naughty Dog on whatever comes after that. So I think there'll be a 3rd and final game for The Last of Us, and we'll get part 3.
Imagine if they
announced
have to
each
rush
year.
this game out just so that the TV show has
Yeah.
content.
It has
Like,
content. It's gonna be game
it could
changing.
happen.
Yeah.
It could
No,
happen.
especially if there's a lot of money in the TV show.
Yeah.
Like Last of Us Part 2 came out this year, it'll be 3 years. So
It was
like,
was it 7 years between the original 1 and 2? Was it 7 or 8?
it was 7 years.
So we got 4 years to go. I guess if they do season 2 and 3, if they do it every second year, then the timeline works out. You don't think we get just what he's talking about is like what's the multiplayer?
Losses?
Oh, we're getting
You don't
that,
think it's
but 100% he's said there's some surprises to be announced this year for their future projects, and one of them is heavily rumored to be part 3. So
yeah, okay,
yeah,
I'm happy. I'm happy for that.
so I'm excited for that. That is all for this show tonight. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your partners, tell your kids, tell everyone. If you liked hearing us talk about video games, you'll love hearing us talk about movies in our other podcast, The Good, the Bad, the Worst. Our next episode is our 2022 in review, where we do our movie of the years instead of our game of the years. It's very exciting. Most of them were TV shows, but still very exciting. So check that out. Available on all social media feeds and available on YouTube and podcast feeds to listen to. This podcast is actually sponsored by The Taste of Iron by Mr. CV Clark. Check it out. If it was a game, it would be my game of the year every year. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
It is.